to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast, the most listened to daily Miami Dolphins podcast on the internet.
Miami's got the Dolphins, the greatest of all.
Come on, Dolphins fans. Time to fins up.
We're in the air, we're on the ground, we're always in control. And when you say Miami, you're talking Super Bowl. Cause we're the Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins number one. Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins number one.
Hello, Miami Dolphins fans. How are you today? And thank you for listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast late on this Wednesday night, June 11th. I'm your host, Michael Leva, joined by a very special guest, David Behrman of PFN, or now the Pro Football and Sports Network, the Chief Content Officer of the Pro Football and Sports Network. David, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you? Happy to be here.
Yes, glad to have you on here. We don't have you on here enough. And mini camps going on with the Dolphins. There's always a lot to talk about there and their offseason in general. Jonnu Smith, Jalen Ramsey, media session. There was one I thought very interesting things that they were going to talk about. So we got a lot of things in the world of the Miami Dolphins we are going to discuss. Before we get to that, let's get a little bit of business out of the way. First off, if you're watching on YouTube, do me a favor. Smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel. Get it out of the way right now at the top of the show. Smash, subscribe, boom. Thank you. Also, shout out to the sponsor of today's show, Caneswear. Everyone go to caneswear.com for the best and most affordable Miami Dolphins apparel on the internet. They also have stuff for the Florida Panthers, who are oh so close to winning another Stanley Cup championship. They got stuff for the Miami Heat, the Miami Marlins, of course, the Miami Hurricanes, and all of the college teams in the state of Florida. But if you want Miami Dolphins gear, Father's Day just a few days away, caneswear.com, or stop by their location at 2655 South University Drive in Davie, Florida. Caneswear.com. Also, a reminder, our Military Fan of the Year contest, where we send one fan of the Miami Dolphins to a home game this year. You get 2 tickets on us, a parking pass on us, and $100 is running. Ends July 7th. All the information is up on our social media channels. It's up on the website. You got to send me a quick email. Tell me your name, rank, which home game you want to go to, and a couple sentences why you should win. July 7th is the cutoff. Don't forget, Dolphins Talk Military Fan of the Year contest. Get those submissions in. We got a bunch already. It's always hard to pick a winner, but it's one of the things we like to do here each year. All right, David, before we get into some Dolphins talk, tell everyone what's going on at PFN these days, what you guys are up to, and some of the stuff, exciting stuff you got happening.
Absolutely. The thing that I'm really working on every single day now is the PFN betting newsletter, Betting with Behrman, building off the brand that I built when I was at ESPN with the betting content. And now at PFN, we're building a newsletter. It's 3 days a week. Some of it is free, some of it is premium, but you can always sign up, give the email. It's pfnbetting.com. Throw your email in there and you'll get a 3 times a week betting newsletter that I personally author and work with our stats and insights team. But it's fun. That was my route back at ESPN, was doing the betting content. So we're in there, and I know it's the off season, and a lot of it is NBA finals and Stanley Cup final, and some UFC here and some golf there. I'm very passionate about the golf betting. But we also have the NFL Future of the Week that's in there every single week. This is our 3rd week running it. We've so far given out the Rams to win the NFC West, and believe it or not, Jaguars over 7.5 wins. And every week I'll give out a new NFL Future, and obviously the Dolphins will be a heavy part of that as we move forward. Yeah,
last I checked, they were at 8.5. I don't know if that's changed any. It might change after they move Ramsey and Smith. I don't know.
8.5 is the average number with books like DraftKings. You can bet at any single number. Obviously,
yes, you can slide the number around. Yeah,
move the number around. FanDuel, the same thing. Other books, the average number is 8.5, and to be honest, they could put that on the Dolphins' tombstone for the last 25 years.
That's pretty much true. And it's funny, the past few years, not last year because I didn't bet last year, I've taken them over because it's always been like 9.5. I go, they're going to win 10. But this year, I got to be honest, at 8.5, I'll either won't bet it because I don't want that to happen, or I'm just going to probably take the under, unfortunately, because I have a feeling they're not going to get over 8.5. That's just my pessimistic view as of June June 11th, I'm entitled to change depending on what happens.
Which is weird because usually on normal June 11th, we're always like thinking the Dolphins are going to win the Super Bowl, they're going to win 15 games, go the whole thing. They had the greatest draft, the greatest offseason. Everyone's playing in Miami. The season, as you know, was different, and they didn't spend much money in the offseason. And listen, are they going to get over 8.5 wins? I do think they got a lucky break with the way the schedule lines out. The first 5 games, Howling has one playoff team from last year with the Buffalo Bills, which is the same every single year with the Bills. The other 4 games on that stretch are winnable games. The schedule's not totally difficult. Obviously, it's harder in December and January. Schedule-wise, there are 9 wins on that schedule. Talent-wise, I think I agree with you. It's looking like, 7 or 8 wins, but who knows? We've been wrong before. We've been wrong often.
Exactly. We've been wrong with this team a lot. I will say this too about the schedule. I wish we were playing Indianapolis any week that's not week 1, because week 1, it's a home game for the Colts. Jim Irsay died. They're going to honor him. The team's going to be pumped up for the game. Fans are going to be crying. They're going to come out ready just to blow the doors off whoever they're playing, and it happens to be us. I wish we played the Colts week 2. Now,
even more unfortunate than that is Anthony Richardson probably won't be ready.
So we got to play the better quarterback of the two.
We got to play the better quarterback. I was at that game in Indy last year where it was Richardson versus whatever Dolphin guy could line up and
Huntley,
play.
I think that was still, yeah.
And then they got injured, and Tim Boyle can't. I've been to so many Dolphin games I can't count. Obviously, as a kid, I lived in South Florida, and my parents have had season tickets since Shula's first year, so I went to almost every game between 84 and leaving for college in 96. But I've also been to 45 road games ever since I left home, lived in the Midwest, lived in Gainesville, lived in New Mexico, and now live in Connecticut. So I've gone to 45 road games. And Mike, I'm telling you, of the 45 road games I've gone to, and countless number of home games over the course of 25 years, that was the single worst football game I ever saw.
Yeah.
It was awful. It was just a terrible football game. And the sad part was I'm there every year now. We do a cousins road trip. Like I said, my dad has had season tickets for 55 years. My cousins have season tickets. So my dad, me, my brother, 2 cousins and their kids, the 7 of us now go to one official road game a year together, not counting the ones I go to in Foxborough and in the Meadowlands. And, we started in Vegas, we did Chicago, we did Philly, and then now we did Indy. Luckily we had gone and seen the Oregon Ducks play Purdue the night before, so we saw some real football.
Real football, Oregon, yeah.
The Anthony Richardson, Snoop Hundley, Tim Boyle. The best part about that game was seeing Achen's new helmet. The helmet cut. That was it.
Yeah. That game I think was also lost on a Raheem Mostert fumble, which is why I think after that game he never saw the field again. I mean, he saw the field, but hardly saw the field.
Yes.
There were 2 things. I kind of got the same because I live up here in Syracuse, a few hours away from Buffalo, and for probably 15 years I would make that drive. Yep. And I'm not. I think I saw them win once in Buffalo over like a 10-15 year stretch once. So there came a point where I'm just like, why am I here? This is not enjoyable for me anymore. I'm driving 2.5 hours here, 3 hours with traffic, 2.5, 3 hours back. So I'm not staying the night in freaking Buffalo. And I'm like, this is not enjoyable for me. I come up here. We don't just lose. We get embarrassed. I'm like, I'm done. I'm not coming back no more. I'll stay home. And most of the time it's in the cold, the snow, the sleet. Everyone's drunk. It's just gross. The stadium's old as dirt. I'm like, I'm not doing it no more. But the other thing, speaking of last year, it was one of those years where whatever could go wrong would go wrong. I remember I was with Tom from our website. We flew down to Miami for the Arizona game. We're in the press box watching the game. That late third quarter, the fumble in the end zone on a bad snap to Tua. I just look and go, uh-oh. Tom goes, what? And I go, beginning of the end. It's one of them years. Literally within 1 hour of real time, game was over. We lost. I'm like, how did we lose this game? It was one of those years. One of them years. It
was one of those years, and I've seen a lot of bad losses, a lot of bad road game losses. I was at we won't mention it again, 62-7 Dan Marino last game in Jacksonville. I've seen 32-10 blowouts. I've seen the greatest show on turf beat the Dolphins in St. Louis. Tons and tons of losses, but the Colts game was just bad football.
Bad game.
Like
bad
game. And listen, I said 45. Like the record is 17-28 in the 45 road games I've gone to over the last 25 years. So I've seen my share of losses, and I've had recent success at the Meadowlands. I have it all written down here. In the Meadowlands, I'm actually 8-7 if you count new stadium and old stadium.
Okay, that counts.
Foxborough 2-6. I finally, first game I saw there was under Nicky Saban in the Doug Flutie dropkick game. End of the season, and Brady played a quarter, and we won. And the next year we were going to win the Super Bowl. And then I went to 6 straight losses in Foxborough, and I said I would not go back until Brady was gone. And then he was gone, and the Dolphins finally won one. So it's just a house of horrors, that place. So
yeah. And let's talk a little bit, because there was a comment today I want to get your thoughts on from Bradley Chubb, because we hear, and when you don't win games, one things that an organization will do is we're changing the culture. The culture's changing. We're fixing the culture. Once we fix the culture, the wins are going to come. The wins are going to follow. We're fixing the culture. Bradley Chubb was asked by one of the reporters. I'm sorry, I don't know who asked the question about. He kind of said, not saying that you all are lying, but we've heard this before about spending time together and how you guys are going to get to know each other and you're caring. He goes, what makes this year, any bit not that? And Bradley Chubb gave the most honest answer I've ever seen. Quote, I'm going to say, last year, we were lying. Honestly, point blank period. We felt it. We put our toe in the water, but we didn't dive all the way in. We didn't get all the way there with each other. We weren't making the effort to go the extra mile. And I would say this year, we are doing that. I'm not sure how it's going to turn out for us, but we're putting forth that foot to change it, because last year, like I said, we wanted to change it. Yeah, we're doing it this year. We're doing that. And there's a little bit more, but that's the general point. Pretty much said, yeah, we said it last year, but we were lying. I mean, that's the problem with the culture. My follow-up, well, not really follow-up, but now I say to myself, well, once a liar, always a liar. How can I believe you now?
And listen, I think team culture is a real thing. You see what the Florida Panthers are doing, and they're 2 wins away from a Stanley Cup, and the culture's there. They brought in a guy they hated, and he fit right in Marshawn, and the culture's great. I look at culture as when you're winning, the culture is always good, and when you're losing, the culture is always bad.
Yes.
The culture is what you make it. And to tell me that we didn't put our whole effort in, we dipped it. Can I curse on the podcast?
Absolutely. Go for it. It's
bullshit. It's
exactly.
Bullshit. You're getting paid millions and millions of dollars to go out there and play football. People are giving you their life savings to come to the games. I don't buy it. These guys are professional athletes on a field playing a game that is made for warriors. Don't tell me you didn't give it your all. That's a crock of baloney. Now, is there a team culture issue? It's funny that keeps getting brought up with Tyreek Hill and Ramsey and all this nonsense. Just go back 2 years. The team was on Hard Knocks, and I thought everyone was singing Kumbaya for 8 weeks. The team was scoring. The team was winning. Everybody, it's the same team. It's the same coaches. Like, I mean, they even had Vic Fangio, who everybody hated, but yet the culture was great. We were winning. What happened when you started losing? You go to Baltimore and get blown out. You lose at home to Buffalo at home with the entire season on the line. Then you go on the Kansas City and you played them in the Antarctica and lost. And all of a sudden, Fangio is the issue, and there's a problem, and the culture's bad, and they run out a coach who just went and won a Super Bowl, and everyone loves him. So I would say if you're a Miami Dolphin player and you want to talk to the media, look yourself in the mirror first. That's it. I don't want to hear all that we dipped our toe in or the culture this, culture's that. You got the same head coach you had 2 years ago, 1 year ago, and now. You have the same GM from 2 years ago, 1 year ago, and now. You got rid of the defensive coordinator that you ran out of town because he wasn't a good fit, just won a Super Bowl. Tyreek Hill is his own mess. Jalen Ramsey is his own mess. Now, I don't think the Dolphins have done right by everything, and Lord knows they've made plenty of mistakes, but the culture is what you make it. I always used to be asked this question when I was at ESPN and I would interview people for a job. Mike, I would say, you got any questions for me? And this is your opportunity to ask me anything you want. And people would say, well, what's it like living in Bristol, Connecticut? I'd be like, whatever you want it to be. You want to drive an hour and a half to Manhattan, drive an hour and a half to Manhattan. You want to sit home and read a book, sit home and read a book. Culture is what you make it. So Bradley Chubb, go make a good culture. Go try 100%. Go get the $10 million a year we're paying you. Jalen Ramsey, either play for the Dolphins or get a trade. Like Tyreek Hill, grow up a little bit. Like,
yeah, really,
be an adult. You're an all-pro wide receiver. You're Hall of Fame worthy. Act like it. And don't blame the coaches and don't blame the GM. Yes, they have their own issues. Mike can't seem to scheme without Tua or two deep defenses, and the GM can't seem to do anything right. But at the end of the day, the players are the ones that are on the field. Like, not to compare apples to oranges, but like, I coach a bunch of 10-year-olds in flag football and tackle football, and I say, listen, I've game planned. I prepared. I put you out there. I don't catch the ball. I don't throw the ball, and I don't make the tackles or pull the flags. So Tyreek, Jalen, Bradley, it's you guys. It's not on Mike, and it's not on Chris. Go out there and do the job we pay you for, period.
Yeah, absolutely. But I do think we also know with a modern athlete, when they don't get their way, they put on the boo-boo face and they're going to sulk and they're going to prove their point. And I think what that answer right there is like, we were lying. That means we didn't care what our head coach said. We weren't going to try. And that's probably the problem with the Dolphins. You know, Mike McDaniel, yes, year 1, year 2, honeymoon period. He was the darling, 70 points, getting all the attention. Great. The minute things got tough, those players stopped responding to him. It sounds like, I mean, I'm not there. I don't know. Just that answer, we were like, you know, Mike McDaniel wants a healthy culture. And what he said after the season, guys showed up late. We fined them. That didn't work. Well, Mike, that's because they don't respect you. Really, that's what it comes down to. And that's where this is fractured. We'll see how it goes this year. But I have a feeling, look, and Chubb, this is his final year in Miami, like it's going to be Hill's final year in Miami. So I don't really care what he says because he's going to be gone after the next year. But he's letting some insight into like, yeah, we lied. Like, no big deal. Sorry.
In January of 2024, Mike McDaniel could have run for governor of Florida. He was so popular. The team was facing the Baltimore Ravens for the 1 seed. Like, things weren't any better. And all you have to do is fast forward like 8 months, and all of a sudden they want to run them out of town and the culture's bad. Like, they literally played for the 1 seed in late December, early January, and then since then they've been a completely different team. Losing out the rest of the season, losing the playoffs, not making the playoffs. Now the culture stinks, yada, yada, yada. Some point, you got to just look yourself in the mirror, and that's what it is. Like, don't blame everybody else. I'm not defending McDaniel or Greer or Fangio. Just
but it is on the players to show up and play. Yeah, absolutely. And they have to do the right job of maybe vetting these players to bring in the right pieces, not just bring in, he's a big name, he's really good. Yeah, but is he okay? But where is he at this point in his career? Is he going to come here and try? If we give him a big deal, is that going to kill his motivation? Like, there's a lot to it, and we just can't seem to get it right on all the levels. But yes, it comes down to players at the end of the day making plays. This offseason, you touched on it briefly there. They didn't spend any money. They didn't restructure any deals outside of Austin Jackson, where they moved around some money, but which was like a nothing burger. They didn't restructure the deal for Tua, Zach Sealer, Jordan Brooks, which would have opened up significant cap space to go out there and add players. They didn't do that, and they just sat tight, signed a couple backup safeties, so we're going to force to start, signed an offensive lineman coming off a major Achilles injury. We hope's going to be ready by week 1. I know they say he will after last year. Can't take him too seriously with Odell Beckham, Isaiah Wynn, and everyone else who was there. They don't worry about it. Then everyone's on pup. What do you think of their offseason? Not so much with the draft, because that we'll talk, but just what they signed or what they didn't do. And what does that say?
It doesn't surprise me because we knew they were in salary cap hell. So it didn't surprise me that they didn't do anything because they didn't have anything to work with. That being said, a couple of restructures could have gone a long way to freeing up some money. It wasn't the best free agency pool to begin with. They sat back and listen, I wasn't surprised, but then you also got to face reality that the team got graded as a C- D+ by Pro Football Network, C to D by most of the pundits out there. And the depth is now at question. You've allowed people to go. You've paid the wrong people, and now you got to pay the price for it. And it's like, all right, We already gave Tua this money, and we gave Tyreek Hill this money, and we gave Jalen Ramsey this money, and Bradley Chubb this money, and Jalen Waddle this money. Eventually, that the bill comes due. Like, even the Rams won a Super Bowl, and the bill came due where you got to pay these guys. And short of blowing it all up and restructuring everybody, they didn't have many moves to make. And I think Dolphin fans in general are not used to that. The team always wins the offseason. They always are the paper champions every single year. You can go back to the 90s where free agency started, and they always get a stud to come to Miami in some way, shape, or form. They didn't do that this year. And you look at a secondary that isn't much better than my, sixth grade tackle team that I coach.
No, it's not.
And the defensive line that, they went ahead and we'll talk about the draft with Kenneth Grant later. It's Zach Sealer and
rookies. It's Zach Sealer and a bunch of rookies.
So a team that has battled injury issues many, many, many consecutive years in a row can't afford any, and the season hasn't started yet. We've watched an offense and a defensive line go in the tank because of injuries in each of the past 10 years. Now you're starting at a point where the secondary is nonsense. The defensive line is one player, one rookie, and a whole bunch of no names. It worries you. Now, they still have an offense that at one point scored 70 in a game, and that offense hasn't changed much. If anything, it's gotten better with Jonnu Smith in there instead of Gesicki. We don't know how long that's going to last, but the offensive line has grown up a little bit, lost some pieces, drafted the kid from Arizona. There's hope there, but you still have an offense that has not adapted one bit to them finally figuring out we can stop this 70-point team. And the Baltimore Ravens showed it. The Bills showed it. The Chargers have shown it. Even the Cowboys showed it in the game the Dolphins won in a walk-off. And every team in 2024 showed it. So unless Mike McDaniel has something up his sleeve, which he said he had last year and didn't, you go back to that Colts game. Like, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle combined for 2 targets that game. I don't give a crap who the quarterback is.
Exactly. Find ways to get him the ball.
You're paying these guys $60 million a year, get them the ball. So if McDaniel doesn't adapt his offense to people catching on to it, and the Dolphins don't stay healthy, you can see a really bad season, at which point everyone's gone anyway. So
yeah. Well, we think everyone's gone. I don't think Chris Greer's going anywhere. I think Chris Greer, this guy knows exactly what he's doing. This guy has survived everything. I know there's that report back in January that he might go into like a senior advisor role or a VP role of some sort. I think that is very likely to happen after this year. I don't see him going anywhere. I could see him, once again, it's America. Fail up. Fail, you get a promotion. It's a promotion, and he'll be the puppet master hiring the GM, and he'll have his hands into who that coach is and stuff. So I could see that happening with Greer. McDaniel, I could see being set up as the fall guy 100%, because, look, they didn't win any games in the playoffs. They didn't win the AFC with much better rosters than this. And now you tell this guy this year, oh, yeah, make or break. Go win us a playoff game for the first time in 25 years or else. Well, if you couldn't win it in 2022 or 2023, he damn sure ain't going to win it with a Fetty Melifanu, Ashton Davis, Cam Smith, and Storm Duck. I tell you that. I don't need to be Ron Jaworski locked in the NFL film studio breaking down film. I'm telling you, that ain't going to happen with that group.
No, and this is the worst team that Mike and Chris have had in years. And, they had an all-pro team 2 years ago that should have won the division, should have won the conference, and then they wind up in the Antarctic losing to the Chiefs, and it's like, this season never really happened. Well, I mean, they were playing for the 1 seed in week 17, so it was there. It's unfortunate. I think, obviously, the Dolphin franchise turned on that Monday Night Football loss to Tennessee. You lost the wiggle room there. Yes. I remember I was interviewing somebody that we had flown to town, and we all went to a casino in Massachusetts to watch the game. And I remember driving home from Springfield thinking, 3-game lead, 5 to go. Play Baltimore, play Buffalo. Why didn't we beat Tennessee? Exactly. You beat Tennessee, it's a 4-game lead with 5 to go, and it's a completely different story. You started to see what was going to happen when you lost that game, but they also had Sunday Night Football at home at the Rock. All they had to do was beat the Bills.
And they had a lead.
They
had
had
a lead in that game. Had a lead.
The difference between them being the 2 seed and them winding up having to go, 2 seed playing Pittsburgh, who was terrible.
They would have won that game and ended the streak. If they would have won the 2 seed, win that game, Mike McDaniel's got no pressure on him this year at all.
By the way, you win that game and you beat Pittsburgh and you break the streak, you're then hosting Kansas City at home. Yeah. Instead of going to Kansas City
minus 30,
some 30-degree wet, like the season was over. As soon as they lost to Buffalo, and it's like I'm not saying they would have won the Super Bowl.
No, but they would have probably made a run. Yeah.
They would have made a run. Do they eventually lose in Baltimore? I mean, Kansas City went into Baltimore and won. Who knows what happens? But now it's all gone backwards since then. And I don't see them coming out of it in this current environment where, you got Waddle and Tua and Achane for years. They're not going anywhere, but you're going to lose Hill. You're going to lose a lot of guys on defense, and the core is going to be done. And who knows?
Yeah. And that leads to Tua. And I don't want to get into, is he good or bad? That gets debated all the time. I find it totally boresome. I always like to say, people fight over this to the end of the earth. And I go, you guys are all wasting your time, because the answer is hitting in your face. Is he one of the worst quarterbacks in the league? No. Is he one of the best? No. He's an ordinary middle-of-the-road quarterback. He's not living up to the 5th pick of the draft, but he's a middle-of-the-road, ordinary quarterback who can win you games, but, he's not the guy. He's not Pat Mahomes. He's not Josh Allen. He's not Lamar Jackson. And guess what? He never will be. So if you're holding out hope that he's going to be that guy, you're wasting. He's just a boring, middle-of-the-road, ordinary quarterback, and that's okay. But now he's going into year 6, and this is a question I've been sort of talking about here on our show. Fans expect him to make this leap. I'm like, you got 5-year sample size. He is who he is. He ain't he ain't changing. We've seen the best of Tua. He's hit his ceiling. He ain't getting any better. Did he get marginally better? Okay, marginally better.
And listen, the best of Tua is an MVP candidate. We saw it in 2023. Yeah. When he's fully healthy and he plays all 17 games, he leads the league in passing. He has one of the highest completion percentages of all time. When Tua is Tua and they're firing on all cylinders, he is a good quarterback. Not great. We already decided that.
Yeah, good quarterback.
And the people, again, I'm completely with you. The debate is boring. Get out of it. We don't need it. He's not a top 5. He's not a bottom 5. The Eagles just won a Super Bowl with Jalen Hurts. I would say the same thing about Jalen Hurts. He's not a top 5. He's not a bottom 5.
He shows up every week and he protects himself.
There is a massive difference in the injury protection, no doubt.
Yep,
and that's what makes the difference between the two. He's going to be there. But in terms of talent and numbers, Tua has better numbers than Justin Herbert, who he's always going to be compared to because of where they were taken in the draft. He has better numbers. He has a better win percentage. He has better completion percentage, better passer rating. No, he doesn't have the yards and touchdowns because he missed more time than Herbert. But it's ridiculous when people have the debate because Tua's numbers are just as good, and people think Justin Herbert's a top 5 quarterback. Justin Herbert's won as many playoff games as you and I have. And does he show up? He absolutely shows up every week, and that is the biggest thing that has held Tua back. I firmly believe that if Tua hadn't gone through all this concussion, you can't revision his history. It happened.
Yeah.
He is a top 10 quarterback consistently, and people would stop complaining. But now you just got to say, I completely agree with you. It's year 6. And you can go year by year early and make every excuse in the world. There was COVID. He didn't have training camp. He was coming off of a hip injury. He had Brian Flores, who hated him, and he had throwing to Mike and Dave out there. Like he had no weapons.
Yeah,
all true.
Exactly. Yeah.
Then you saw what happened with a coach that believed in him, with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle around him, with Mostert scoring 20 touchdowns. You saw what he could do in 2023. He was an MVP candidate, for Pete's sake. Got injured again in 24, and it's just he got his contract. Everyone gets their contract. Everybody that plays quarterback in the NFL is going to get $250 million. I've come to accept that, so you can't blame him for that.
Yeah, that I don't care about.
He's never going to be Dan Marino. But he's also not Ray Lucas, so stop calling him Ray Lucas.
Exactly.
Like, can Tua Tagovailoa win a Super Bowl? Yeah. Jalen Hurts won a Super Bowl. Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl. The Mr. Irrelevant, Brock Purdy, almost won a Super Bowl. Tua can win a Super Bowl if everything lines up. But this whole the worst quarterback in the world is stupid. He's the best quarterback in the world is stupid. Do I believe in him? Yes. Do I like they gave him the contract? Of course. You got to keep the only quarterback that's been worth a shit for the last 25 years. You got to keep.
They had to extend him because there's no other options, which is fine. Yeah.
But they also failed to win when he was on a rookie contract. So
that's the problem.
That's when you needed to do it. You needed to win. We're going to look back at this in 2030 or 2032 when you have me on again and we're all old and gray. And we're going to look back at 2023 and we're just going to want to punch ourselves.
That was the year. Yeah, absolutely. And, here in our chat, we said, just give Tua a good offensive line. It'll prove you wrong. Yes and no. Yes. Who doesn't need a strong offensive line? Yes. But I do want to point out, every one of his injuries have nothing to do with the offensive line. He ran headfirst into the player versus the Bills. The injury versus the Packers, he just took an ordinary hit, that's the most scary one of them all. Last year versus Houston, runs out of the pocket, dive, hurts his hip. The one versus Cincinnati, he held onto the ball too long. That wasn't the offensive line. He had all time in the world. Every one of his injuries are really his fault if you look at it objectively. I know it's easy just to say offensive line sucks. Yeah, the offensive line has sucked. Two things can be true at the same time. Offensive line sucks. True. Here's what's also true. All of his injuries are because of him. He doesn't protect himself. And even when he came back versus the Rams last year, great win on the road versus the Rams. He throws the interception. You think he would have learned. No, he's going in, diving headfirst to break up a tackle. Why? That's the stuff he can't do. And he stands at the podium. Did it last year. Did it this week. He says all the right things all the time. Got to protect myself. Team needs to be on the field. But words don't matter. Because we've seen him time and time again. He continues to do the same thing. So if he's not going to protect himself,
and neither one of us nor anybody else on the internet is a head doctor or concussion specialist, despite we all trying to do it. No one knows, and I agree with you in theory that the injuries were his doing on the runs and not ducking and trying to tackle guys. We don't know how many of the other sacks or other hits that he took because of the bad offensive line got the head going. Because, listen, Tua's not – David Carr got sacked the most in NFL history. The guy never had concussions. And Josh Allen runs around like a chicken with his head off. He doesn't get concussions. So there's definitely something wrong with Tua's head compared to other players' heads. I don't know why. I'm not a head doctor.
Exactly.
The hits that he has taken don't result in concussions for other people. And that's a flaw.
Scary part. Yeah.
It's a flaw that you could not have predicted in 2020.
No.
Yes, he had a hip injury. But if you go back to 2020 and you replay the draft all over again, I still would take Tua over Herbert. I still would. And people are like, you're crazy. Look at Herbert. First of all, I've told you Tua has the better numbers, but he was the better, more seasoned quarterback with the most talent. You could not have predicted the head injuries. Now, the hip is healed. He has not had hip problems in the National Football League, which is what scared people off and why he fell from 1 to 5. That being said, without the concussions, we're having a completely different story. But you can't throw them out the window. They're there. But Chris Greer and Stephen Ross and Brian Flores and everybody else involved could not have predicted that his head was like mush when he falls. You couldn't have predicted it. You also couldn't have predicted these guys would hit him as hard as they were. You go to Cincinnati, where it all started. Well, I guess technically it started the week before.
Buffalo,
back injury. Cincinnati is a house of horrors. Somebody gets injured there every single season. Everybody gets injured there. It's like their field is made of the devil. But I don't know what started the head stuff. I don't know if Tua had head injuries in high school, at Pee Wee ball, in college. You could not have predicted that. And he has shown when healthy, he's a top 10 quarterback. Now, does he make dumb decisions? So does Mahomes. So does
They all make dumb decisions. Yes. Every quarterback's going to have their share of mistakes. You can't harp on every one of them. Yes. You don't want someone who makes too many of them, but they're all, a lot of these quarterbacks, when they are outside the pocket and sometimes they get flustered, they really make really bad decisions. But of course, that's expected. You can live with a few of them. Yeah. So it's not the end of the world.
But I mean, every move Tua makes, it
gets criticized. I know.
Right. Yeah, and you know what? He had a bad game against Buffalo when the season was on the line in 2023-24. It was a bad game, no doubt. And it was one of many things that went wrong. They had the lead and they blew it, and he threw a horrible pick at the end. But you can't let the season come down to that. They had a 2-touchdown lead against Tennessee with 3 minutes. I mean, they lost to Tennessee both seasons. This is a team that had the number 1 pick this year, and they lost to them last year. You beat the Rams on the road, a Rams team that very well could have gone to the NFC title game last year, but you can't beat Tennessee at home.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, and and that was with Mike Vrabel the first time, and now he's back in the AFC East, so we have to put up with him. That guy, that's gonna be interesting because I think Mike Vrabel's a very good coach. Let's talk about the draft here a little bit because I know you did a bunch of shows with us with Josh over at Dolphins Talk Extra. Again, patreon.com/DolphinsTalk. $3 a month, folks. It's great content over there. And you were on with Josh at a bunch of draft shows. Really, this draft comes down to the first 2 picks because those are the guys who need to step in, start year 1, day 1. Let's talk about them. And I want to ask you this when we talk about Grant. If we knew then what we know now about Jonnu Smith, not being here, essentially, at some point he's getting traded, would you have taken Tyler Warren over Grant at pick 13?
Yeah, we knew then what we know now. Yes. And I said that the day that the Jonnu Smith rumor started, I would have taken a lot of people over Grant. I had Grant mocked to the Dolphins in the 2nd round. I liked Grant. I did numerous mock drafts. If you go to the Pro Football Network mock draft simulator, you can do the 2026 draft. When I did it there, I took Grant repeatedly with the 2nd round pick. I didn't think the Dolphins would reach for him with the 1st round pick. But yeah, would it be different and go with Tyler Warren? Maybe. I don't think tight end was a need. And even if Jonnu Smith was going to be gone, was it a 1st round need? Probably not. But yeah, I would have gone. I probably would have gone corner based on what
I would have gone corner anyways. Yeah. Right. That was my
ultimately. And I was on with Josh numerous times, and I said offensive line or bust. Like I said, if they don't come out with an offensive lineman in the first 2 rounds, like it doesn't make any sense. And they got one in the 2nd round, thank God. But like I wanted Josh Banks in the 1st round. I wanted somebody to fall to the Dolphins. I wanted offensive line. I get why they did DT because there's a whole bunch of no names and rookies out there. But it's back to what we talked about at the beginning of the show. They have too many holes. They need offensive line. They need defensive line. They need corner. And lo and behold, now they need tight end. And I don't know what they're going to do with Jonnu Smith. It's a bad situation that it's come to this, and it's a victim of the Dolphins not taking care of the salary cap. It's all right. You're now salary cap strapped. You couldn't pay your guys, and Jonnu Smith has earned the number, but you can't pay everybody. And you know what? Maybe you don't extend Hill, and maybe you don't give all the money in the world to Jalen Ramsey, and you have money to do. It's a victim of bad decisions they made when the Dolphins decided we're going to give all our money to wide receivers and corners and forget the trenches. And the tight end is part of the trench right now. He's an offensive lineman as well as a wide receiver. And now they got to pay him or trade him. So,
yeah. And right now, once they move on from Ramsey, I think they got like 20 million. So it's not about not the money, but they can't set the precedent of anytime someone's mad and they want to raise, they go, okay. Because last year, Hill, after he was smart. He waited until Waddle got paid. Literally the next day, he was like, okay, I want my money. And they're okay, Tyreek, don't be. And then Ramsey was hurt. And then I'm out, guys. I can't do training camp. Then, okay, pay him. Week 1, he's out there. Looked pretty much fine. And they gave everyone an extension who asked for it. And I think they realized they got burned by those two. We can't keep doing this. And yes, all the money's tied up wide receivers. Xavier Howard this year, dead money. It's either 11 or 13 million. It could be 14. I can't remember right now. And I'm not going to look it up because I don't care that much. But they're paying him 13 million or 10 million not to be here. Mm-hmm. It's like the bad contracts and money they've given out, sometimes for no reason, is, again, leads back to the problem. You better vet some of these players you're given, make sure that they're really all in. So that's part of it. We have a question here. We've got some people watching us live, even though it's late, from Cap. If Jonnu leaves, who do you guys trust at tight end? Yeah, I don't trust any of them. Pharaoh Brown can block. Pharaoh is a master blocker, so he will help in the running game. Julian Hill's a walking penalty. We know. They love him. Says all you need to know. But who's going to make a play in the passing game? That guy is not on the Dolphins roster, and they're not going to find one after everyone else is cut either.
No, and that's why this coming out now just shows the depth of ineptitude the Dolphin front office has. Is it's not like you didn't know you had to pay Jonnu Smith. Are you surprised that he wants money? Are you surprised any of us wants money? So without taking care of that or thinking to take care of that, you don't address it in the draft, because they could have drafted a tight end in the 3rd round or the 4th round or the 5th round. And it was a deep draft for tight ends. You had 2 go in the first 15 picks. I'm not
Mason
saying
Taylor round 2, Mason Taylor round 2,
Yeah.
and Arondé Gadsden round 5.
There are plenty of options out there, but obviously you don't need a tight end if you have Jonnu Smith, and they only can hope that they're going to make it work, because if you trade him, you got nobody. So, like, I don't know what you – that was the only part of the offense last year that seemed to work, was the tight end. And you get rid of that, and, you know, McDaniel's got to go back to the drawing board. So
this goes back to my whole thing, which sort of drives me nuts. From day one, Mike McDaniel, they go, wait to year 3 of his offense, the tight end's going to explode. Takes to year 3, that's when the tight end really gets integrated. Okay, we get there to year 3.
Yeah.
Tight end blows up, has 88 catches or something, 884 yards, 8 touchdowns, whatever it was. Great. And now that Jonnu wants to go, which, by the way, I wonder if they knew back prior to the draft. They just didn't say nothing. I would love to know that answer. We'll never find out, but I would love to know that. Now that he's going to go, the same fans who said that are the fans who go, this offense doesn't need a tight end. He's just a blocker. Like, wait a minute. It's like, I know you're coping because you're mad, but come on, man. We heard for 3 years. Wait till year 3. Year 3, it actually happens. And I'm like, we don't need him. We don't need him. We just want another blocker out. It's like, oh, brother. That's the stuff that drives me up a wall sometimes.
you look at that Indy game we keep going back to, because Hill and Waddle didn't have 2 targets. You look at the box score, I believe it was the Indy game, and it was Jonnu Smith, backup tight end, both running backs. It's like tight end, running back, all combined for 85% of the targets. It's like, that's not the offense that you're used to seeing with the Dolphins. I think it was the Indy game. It might have been.
I'm looking right now. Here it is. Here's your receptions for that game. Jonnu, oh, this is scary. You just found it. Jonnu Smith, 7 for 96 and a touchdown. Alec Ingold, 1 for 25. Waddle, 1 for 11. Malik, 2 for 9. Hill, 1 for 8. Etienne, 2 for 8. Hill, 1 for 4.
So you're right. You had 8 catches by the tight ends. You had a bunch of catches by the fullback and running backs, and you had 2 catches by Waddle and
Hill. Here it is. The team had 15 for 161. 15 receptions, 161 yards. Jonnu had 7 of the 15 and 96 of the 161.
I mean, and a rookie had just as many catches as Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. So
from Tyler Huntley and Tim Boyle, of all people. Huntley was 7 to 13. Tim Boyle was actually 8 of 13.
That game will go down in the Canton Hall of Fame as one of the worst. And by the way, the winning quarterback was a train wreck too. He was awful.
He was terrible. Yeah, he was 10 for 24, but I think a lot of those 10 came late in the game in the fourth quarter. I think he had 2 completions in the first half or something crazy like that. Yeah, so that's that. Real quick here as we wrap up, a few more of the picks that I like. Ollie Gordon, 2023 Ollie Gordon was fantastic. He took the world by storm. 2024, not so much. That's more of an Oklahoma State issue. I watch a ton of college football. I bet a ton of college football. That was an Oklahoma State issue last year. That was less of an Ollie Gordon issue. So this year, he's got some guys in front of him, but I think long-term, I think he's going to be fine here. Quinn Ewers is a scratch-off lottery ticket. And I see fans already fighting about him. Why are you fighting about a 7th-round pick? Yes, big name, a lot of hype in college. Not in college anymore. But he's a scratch-off lottery ticket where his ceiling is a long-term number 2 quarterback. It's not going to cost you $6 million if he pans out. And if it doesn't pan out, it's a 7th-round pick. Who gives a shit?
Right. I also think that Jason Marshall out of Florida, they don't have a lot of good corners. He can be a sneaky pick that should he make the team against. I've had hard with the way the corners are right now.
He's got a golden opportunity.
Right. I watched him a bunch of times as a Florida grad. He's a Miami kid out of Miami Palmetto, was a 5-star athlete. He didn't get at Florida what he wanted to, but he's still a guy who I think can make a mark on the team. Again, 5th-round pick. It's no different than being a Quinn Ewers lottery ticket. But the Dolphins have a cornerback problem, and I think he could be someone that steps in should they get rid of Ramsey.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting what they do. Jair Alexander, again, Chris Greer special, always hurt, but when he's healthy, great when healthy. You can put that next to 10 guys on the Dolphins. Jalen Phillips, Bradley Chubb, James Daniels, Tua, Austin Jackson, and many more. Great when healthy. So I wouldn't be surprised, but he's probably going to want a lot. Asante Samuel's coming off neck surgery in April. Wouldn't be shocked if he's down here. And Rasul Douglas, who I spoke to a reporter for the Bills, Ryan Talbot from Syracuse.com. He covers the Bills. He said Rasul Douglas last year regressed so much. I don't think he belongs in the league. And I'm sure he'll be starting first week 1 because that's the Dolphins, as Josh and Aaron would say, same old Dolphins.
I made fun of them when I first came on the show a few years ago, and they couldn't be more right. I probably text that to Josh 10 times a season. You're right. You're right. And you're always right.
And if you believe in same old Dolphins, as of this week, they have merch. You can buy the same old Dolphins shirt at our DolphinsTalk store up on our website. And if you need help finding it, you can, of course, reach out to me. I go, guys, you've earned it. You want your merch, you got it. Same old Dolphins. You can buy the shirt. David, thanks so much for a few moments of your time today. Everyone follow David Behrman on social media, Twitter, X, at David Behrman PFN. Check out all the great stuff at the Pro Football and Sports Network. PFN is the original name, Pro Football and Sports Network. Check them out. They got a lot of stuff, especially sign up for the gambling newsletter I have for people who like to gamble. And I did hit the trifecta last week on the Belmont. After I won I hit all 3 this year. I had the winner for the first 2. I didn't have the winner for this one, but I had the trifecta, so that counts in my book. I hit all 3.
That's pretty awesome. That's pretty good. And yes, pfnbetting.com. Sign up for the newsletter. Give out picks on every single sport. We've been red hot in hockey. Keep playing the over 1.5 goals in the first period. It keeps hitting. Just keep playing it. We've been pretty hot with our baseball picks. NBA has been hit or miss. That's what you get this time of year when there's only a couple of teams left. But get in there. We even had UFL picks last week. MMA picks went 1-1. We had some horse racing stuff in there. And listen, we're going to have wall-to-wall betting coverage. I know the summer's here. We're going to have more and more NFL futures coming down the line.
NFL futures I love to play them because I think that's a good place to make a lot of money. When you look at the schedules, look at the teams. Yeah, you're forecasting and one injury can change things. But if you don't take drastic risks, you can find good value in a lot of those bets. And I love doing those. So, yeah, everyone, pfn.com there as well. Or to say profootballnetwork.com. Everyone, thank you for listening. We'll talk to you again after a while. Check out my interview with Frank the Tank yesterday. Frank was in a good mood because the Mets won in extra innings. If the Mets would have lost, that would have been a totally different interview with Frank yesterday. Check out the interview with Frank the Tank if you didn't see it. It was out late, so check it out. And we'll talk to you again after a while, folks.